All right, welcome everybody. This is Tom Randall from GoldenCare. I want to welcome you to this webinar today. And it's my pleasure again to present one of the little wow webinars, if you will. And today I am really excited to talk to you about the fact that we have not only myself, so my little ugly mug on there, and I've got in my contract, I've got Jeff Clark on the call with me, and he's better looking than me. So in my contract, I always say that he can't have his picture up there at the same time as me. So, but Jeff, can you hear me? Are you on?
I can hear you, Tom. Yeah, great. I'm actually anxious to hear the presentation as well, and hope I can add a couple things.
You bet. This is going to be a fun one today, especially because Jeff gets the Christmas present with every slide because of the fact that we are going to have this presentation. He hasn't even seen it yet, but I wanted to have him come on. My marketing team thought it'd be great to have Jeff come on. Jeff's been with us for forever as well. I've been my 28th year here, and Jeff's probably sitting at about 24, 26 or something like that. He's been here. He's a legend in our little field here. He's been a great salesperson who's done a really good job over the years. He's been a tried and true long-term care guy forever. And now he's really done a good job of moving into the extended care market and spreading our wings a little bit, as we'll talk about today, on how to go out and make sure we can help as many Americans as possible. So Jeff knows me well enough. He's worked with me for long enough that he knows that I get rolling, and I get rolling at a big, fast pace, and you get drinking out of a fire hose a lot. But I do want Jeff to make sure that he can jump in. So Jeff, he's going to probably have to do the interruption and just say, Tom, let me jump in and add something to this. So
right, I'll keep it to a minimum, Tom. But yes, it's probably will work the best. Absolutely.
You bet. And again, you're in good hands here with all of our team at GoldenCare. I tell you what, I'm so proud of my marketing team and our licensing new business team. The reason that we hopefully have earned a lot of you on this call's trust over the years is that we think we do it as good or better than anybody else out there. We really specialize in what we do. We've been around 50 years now, and we've been really pioneers in the long-term care industry, as most of you know. And now we're really spearheading and kind of trying to lead in the short-term care and the home care and the extended care market. So we're really proud of what we're doing there. And I can't stress enough that whatever happens as we go through as agents is you're going out and helping Americans during this long-term care awareness month and all year long. It's so important with all the gray hair we have in America. As you know from any webinars you've been on with me, I'm passionate about this. And I know Jeff's really passionate about it as well, because of the fact that there's so many Americans out there that are, so many of them are need care. I mean, those stats out there don't lie. 70% of people once they hit 65 will need some type of care. And when you look at long-term care specifically, those numbers are still really high, like 55% of the men and 60-some% of the women. So you're going to need to have some type of care at some time in your life. And that's where you need to have some type of products to help them out, because most people, 90% of adults, have never had a really serious conversation about how to protect themselves and their families. So we can't stress enough the importance of that. And, you know, like I said, Jeff and I, he doesn't have as much gray hair as me, but we've been around a long time. When we started in this industry, there was like 132 carriers, believe it or not, who had long-term care in their portfolios. And now, you know, over the years, that's changed quite a bit. Now there's literally 5 or 6 carriers who do about 90% of the business in the independent market. The big 3 are what you see on your screen there. Mutual of Omaha, NGL, and Thrivent are the big 3 for the individual broker agents. We know Mass Mutual, New York Life, et cetera, have great products out there and sell some long-term care as well, as do some other companies, but it's really slim now and very top heavy. These companies are committed to this industry, and they've done a really good job, and we're excited about that. And as most of you on this call know, I'm sure you've already heard that we did help. We worked real close with the people over at Mutual of Omaha and helped really give them some great ideas how to design that custom solution plan that they have. And Mutual now has risen to the top of the independent market for long-term care. So we're proud of that fact, and we do have long-term care in our blood. And as I go through today and I start talking about some of the other products out there, never forget the importance of true long-term care, because as we go into this, and especially during long-term care awareness month, where it's a little bit easier to turn some heads, make sure you go out and take advantage of some of the tools and some of the training we have. So mark your calendars out there. We've got some great trainings coming up. NGL is coming on November 12th at 11 a.m. and you'll be getting our regular emails on this, so you don't have to scribble this down, and you'll get these slides today as well as a reminder. But in the order of calendar order here, NGL's coming in November 12th. We've got November 14th, our great team at Mutual with Kelsey and Amanda. I think are both going to be on that one as featured guests as well. So that's going to be great, showing some of the things going on at Mutual of Omaha. And then we have the Thrivent team coming on with Dan and Joe coming on November 26th at 11 a.m. Central Time. So again, we have this on our website, as you know, and we'll have other emails coming out, but we just want to make sure you guys check those out, because these products all have their great niches, and they just do a tremendous job of you being able to help people if you're in those long-term care trenches, to go out and really help people get protection for their families. It's just so important. And as part of LTC awareness here, we've got a great team, like I said, on the marketing side. And be on the lookout every Thursday. You're going to get a really nice little email packet with some marketing tools and some of these extended care planning and different tools that we have in our arsenal to help you. So be on the lookout. Keep your eyes on that inbox on Thursdays. And I believe that might be even starting this Thursday already, that you'll be getting that special email from GoldenCare. So we're excited about that. One of the things that we're going to talk about today, and again, this isn't pulling the rug out from long-term care, because one of the things I'm going to show you is some of the tools we have that you can pivot from long-term care and find out if they're healthy enough and if they can afford it and if it works out. Long-term care is by far the best leverage plan out there, dollar for dollar, that you can get. And that's a really important part of what we're doing. But we have been in this industry helping agents help consumers across America for a really long time. And one of the things we've seen, if you remember, our old business card said GoldenCare was America's home for long-term care, right? And now we have switched that over to planning today for a secure tomorrow, because of the fact that we knew that you just can't survive just on long-term care alone. You can't go out with that as your only arrow in your quiver. You've got to have these other products, and you've got to have a way to help as many people as possible, knowing, of course, that our ultimate goal is, of course, long-term care, still one of our top selling products out there, but we do want to make sure that you don't beat yourself over the head, because it can be a long trench and long road. We've had career shops that have gone under across the country because they concentrated only on long-term care insurance. And we've seen tremendous success. I think, Jeff, if you want to speak to that, I think we've cut our lead costs on our career side at least probably in half. Right? I mean, that's the power of having these other
yeah, that is the beauty, is because so many of us in the long-term care industry used to get beat up a little bit by the long-term care underwriting. The prices, it got so hard to get people placed and got so hard to make people afford the product that really got frustrating for a lot of agents. And so these extended care products that I know you're going to talk about, it's changed this long-term care industry. We really like to call it the extended care, with the influx of short-term care, home health care. There's just a whole lot of solutions out there that we got to start bringing to the table as kind of part of the long-term care discussion. But I'm sure you're doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's again what I'm saying is, and we'll talk a little bit later on today on this webinar about the fact that it is hard if you're a long-term care agent who's been in the trenches forever and you're pivoting over to extended care for the first time. But again, what we want to make sure you know, and what we told our carrier partners, we're not abandoning long-term care, these hybrid products even. The key is we're out there to help people. And the only way to do that successfully is to use all the arrows that you have in your quiver and make sure you have a good firm quiver that is full of different tools to help people. And that's what we're here for you. So like Jeff said, at the end of the day, we saw the changes in the industry. And this is the Milliman study. You know, it's the bane of our existence. Milliman's really well respected. They come out with their LTC survey every year. And you know what? Unfortunately, those numbers don't lie. Those numbers are the LTC declines. They're high, aren't they? Once you get, especially when you get the baby boomers who are getting older and closer to claim age, their people are getting nervous about long-term care. And if we can get the healthy people, great, and that's what the carriers are looking for. But we do know there's going to be a good percentage of them who aren't going to be able to have the opportunity to get a long-term care. The placement is another story, and this is the one a lot of agents aren't aware of. And again, all respect to our LTC carriers out there, but you know, when you're looking at 97.3% of all the policies out there that are sold have pretty high elimination periods. But unfortunately, you know, I think I have it on here actually. After field underwriting, because of the fact that it takes a long time to get these policies, underwritten, a lot of the people, even if they can get through underwriting, decide not to take it, right? And we've seen that. And there's a lot of reasons for that I won't spend a lot of time on today. But at the end of the day, we just know if you look at 70-year-olds, 64.7% are not placed. These are people who have gone through and got an actual application after some of those specialists out there did a really good job of field underwriting. So that's the reason that when we talk about Long-Term Care Awareness Month, we really are fighting to have something called the extended care awareness or short-term care awareness as well, because it's all the same picture to us. All of this is, we want a solution. We want to get the best opportunity to help as many people as possible. This is what I was talking about on the waiting. You know, the average waiting for all the big carriers out there for underwriting is 47 days. 60 days or more, 21.8%. If you look at it overall, 88% of these long-term care policies, they take time. They pay tremendous claims, you guys. We've been in this industry forever. They pay out such robust claims in long-term care that they end up saying, you know what, we got to be careful. We got to make sure we take our time and underwrite them. So the 15 days, 88% of them are out there. Some of the people start getting leery of it and they go, oh, it's dragged on now, not maybe 15 days, but now it's 60 or 90 days. Then they start dropping those policies as well because they get upset and they can't wait. So that's one of the reasons, again, we love these short-term care and extended care policies. When you have somebody on the fringe who's probably not going to get long-term care, it's nice to have a policy that you know right away, pretty much at the time of the application in almost all cases, whether you're going to get a policy in place and you'll get an effective date just a couple days later. So another strength of having some of these other plans. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. Jeff and I are real familiar with this slide. And I could go through these line items and spend 10 minutes on it, but I'm not going to today. All I'm going to tell you is that there's a reason that we put some of our eggs in this basket in the short-term care and extended care market. And there's a lot of reasons I've already mentioned, but overall, I really think it can save the industry, because one of the things we've seen out there, unfortunately, even during Long-Term Care Awareness Month, there's a lot of seniors out there going, yeah, long-term care, I've heard about that. It's expensive. I heard it's really hard to get health-wise. And, you know, I've heard about those dreaded rate increases. And, you know, specialists who are on this call, most of you know that that's that legacy block of business. It's those 5% compounded unlimited plans out there, those huge claims that cause the problems with the rates, right, with long-term care. In most claims out there, and I'll talk about it later on, most of the claims out there in the industry are pretty reasonable, $60,000, $68,000, $69,000, I think it is. So you can see that most claims aren't that big, but the ones that were huge that covered some of those really long ongoing cases, those are the ones that crippled some of those long-term care companies and caused some of those significant rate increases. So again, short-term care, you have a max 2-year plans with some restoration, we can make it double that, but overall, these plans don't have those major catastrophic claims that are going to cause some of those rate problems that we had with it. Plus, again, with all the other things we talk about, shorter apps, quick issue times I mentioned, and there's no special certification. So a lot of agents are kind of liking the fact that short-term care, like it says on the bottom there, allows agents to kind of go back to the future again and protect those older prospects. Okay, so we have a lot of products available for you. I'm going to show you a website later on where we have a lot of tools for you. All I want you guys to be aware of, if you're relatively new or you're new to our webinars and new to our training, we have everything you need to be successful. Okay, so we have a good product line. This is just some of our products. These are the main short-term care products. You can see a pretty wide spread there. And then GTL, by the way, I want to throw that in. I'm glad I put it on there. Remind me, GTL is one of our great partner carriers, and GTL just got rated from an A- up to an A on the AM Best. So that's great news for GTL. Congrats to our boys over there and our team over at GTL, because that's a really nice significant difference for people to see that it's got that AM Best rating jumped up to an A. Well deserved by GTL, by the way. And with the home care side of it, we have home care plans to complement our short-term care, the comprehensive. Remember the difference, home health care only or facility and home health care. And True Freedom down at the bottom is an important part of our portfolio. Why? Because I mentioned we want to help as many people as possible, and there's certain states, Minnesota included, unfortunately, that they don't allow the short-term care yet. They just haven't embraced it. They think that it's too much like long-term care, it'll be misrepresented, et cetera. For different reasons, they don't allow it in their state. And there's several states like that, and we want to make sure we have something in all 50 states. So True Freedom on its own in any state is a very strong product. It's kind of a prepaid home care plan. It's not an insurance plan. If you don't know what it is, talk to one of our marketers. Very, very strong plan out there, and it can help a lot of people at the time when you're trying to give them some options for their family. Okay. And again, Jeff, I'm on my roll, so make sure you feel free to jump in at any time on any of this.
I haven't felt compelled yet. You're doing great. I'll chime in when I feel the urge.
You bet. You bet. Wait till I go off the rails in a couple slides. That's why I didn't let you see the presentation. So anyway, GoldenCare is really committed again to helping people. We already talked about this. Lynn put this slide together talking about the fact that we did work hand in hand with the Manhattan Life team. And we really designed what I think is one of the standouts in the industry, this Omniflex plan. And I'm not going to go into full Omniflex training today by any stretch, but I'm going to hit on one of the things that's so important, and that's the restoration side of it, because it's so powerful and it makes these extended care plans so much different than what you see out there in the industry. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time there, but Omniflex in general, you get this slide to remind you, but it's got a lot of the things we really spent. It took about 3 years in the making to get this product on the shelf. And the reason was we didn't want another vanilla plan. We wanted to make sure we had senior solutions that would help people. And if they don't qualify for long-term care or some of those hybrid plans out there, we wanted to make sure we had a plan that was different and it was something that really would stand out and help people at claim time. And we think we did that. It has really flexible, it's very affordable, it can be super robust. And again, you can see on here, it's got the Fast 50 cash benefit that pays family member and friends, which is so important. It's what led Mutual of Omaha, in my belief, to be the #1 product out there because of that cash benefit for family members and friends. And then we have some really nice things about it. And one of those biggies is the restoration of benefits. And I'm going to spend a minute on that. Don't forget about the RX benefit. A lot of people who can't get long-term care certainly have that shoebox full of meds. This is the only short-term care plan in the industry right now that has the ability to go out and give you a $300 RX reimbursement. So if you have some meds in your household, you're going to have the opportunity with that insured to get some money back and have a premium justifier there, a premium reducer. And of course, all these short-term care products, one of the nicer things about them is they go all the way up to age 89. So long-term care in most ages is going to be cut off by 79. Okay. So this is what I talked about at claim time, and I mentioned this earlier. This is one of the biggest things that make these short-term cares come out and are really strong, is that the elimination periods. And this is one of those things that's very necessary in long-term care. And remember, you know, everybody out there in long-term care is selling 90-day eliminations, and for good reason, because at claim time, remember, with a long-term care claim, what are we going to have? We're going to have, you need 2 of 6 ADLs or a cognitive impairment. But with the 2 of 6 ADLs, they say a doctor has to certify it'll last at least 90 days. That's what makes it long-term care, right? So that's the tax qualified long-term care status. So most agents are selling 90 days, right? 97.3% of policies out there based on Milliman with the top carriers are 84 plus days for the facility elimination. One of the things that's just as important down there, and Jeff, you probably are like me where you're a little surprised by this. Look at how low that percentage is getting for first day home care. I mean, we used to press that really hard with Mutual of Omaha, certainly with our other carriers, to say, make sure you get a home health care waiver if you can, because people always dread it. They don't use these policies, remember, for several years down the line most of the time, and they forget that they have the elimination period, and people get bummed out, right? That's why I said they hate it at claim time, because anybody who's been in the field knows, Jeff, you probably had this with your clients, where it's like, what do you mean? Oh, what's this elimination period? What's this all about? The kids certainly forget about it, and they don't realize it's there, so they think they're going to get claims dollars coming out of the gate, and they got to wait. Right. So
especially Tommy, in those older contracts where they had those days of service contracts where, you know, it only a day from a nurse would count. So if you had a 90-day elimination period, you needed 90 visits from a nurse. So that could take months and months, a half a year. If they're coming out twice a week, it takes 45 weeks to finally hit that 90 days. So
you bet. Yep, absolutely. And that's what we're talking about here. We're not bashing long-term care. We're just telling you the way it is. And that's why we put up these actual stats. Because look at that 8.7%, you know, back when we were in our heyday selling more long-term care than ever, it was in that 20%, you can see there, look at 2020, 24.8% at first day home care. The reason that's going down is not because people don't think it's necessary. The reason is it gets to the affordability factor, right? Where we know people are looking at going, oh, I just can't afford that, but I still want to get the policy, so I'm not going to put on that first day home care. So remember that that's a reality out there. And again, that's one of the powers of these extended care plans out there and these short-term care plans, is that we really push hard to say not only sell first day home care, which almost every single policy we sell here with our agents are first day home care, but we really push agents to say, hey, forget about 90 days. If anything, maybe do 20 days on facility, but I push very, very hard, and I think Jeff's on the same boat with me. Sell 0-day facility because it gives you so much power with these short-term care plans. It's very affordable. The premium differences aren't that much to go down to a first day facility. And if you can do it, it's really a great thing, especially at claim time. Your clients will love you for it because with a short-term care plan, you don't have to have that 90-day certification that I talked about with long-term care. With these plans, it says if you have 2 of 6 ADLs, bathing, dressing, etc., 2 of 6 ADLs, and that's all we need to have the ability to trigger these policies, or a cognitive impairment, of course. So you don't have the 90-day certification. What does that do? Takes over one of the biggest reasons people don't buy a policy at the time of sale is what? It's price and mainly denial. A lot of people are like, man, I think of these plans and I think of myself wheeling around in a nursing home. Right? And most people can't see themselves doing that. Their brain fights them on it and they say, I don't think that'll happen to me. I'm going to die first. But what these short-term care plans can offer is claims on some of these smaller things. Look at knee replacement, osteo, cardiac, hip replacement. People can see, anybody you're sitting across the table from or over the computer from who are in their 50s or 40s even would look at it and say, do you see yourself sometime in the future having a hip replacement or falling off a ladder, hurting yourself, or having a car accident where you hurt yourself and you need some time to recover? You know what? A lot of times they wouldn't be there for long-term care, but with a short-term care plan, this policy would give you first day coverage if you needed to go into a facility or at home care. That's a lot of power, and I call it a premium justifier. And the reason that I like it so much is people can see themselves having those smaller things. And if you have those happen to you, this policy will be there. And Jeff, you sold a lot of policies, and people over 65, really important, because now with Medicare, we see a lot of times that somebody in Medicare situation is going to have games played with them on the Medicare level saying, guess what? You know what? I'm going to put you in as an observation instead of inpatient. And I'm not going to get deep into that today, but you've all heard that if you've worked with seniors. And that's a new form they have out there, the dreaded moon form, where these hospitals are getting people to sign it saying, we're not putting you down as a patient, we're going to put you down as observation. And what happens is that really can screw up the out-of-pocket for that patient if they have to go get therapy at a facility, especially, or even at home. Some of those times they're not going to have the ability to have Medicare pay. And then we're going to end up where they get these big bills. And we've had seminars talking about that, or webinars talking about that. So the key is these are indemnity benefits. These policy benefits will pay no matter what. And they're going to end up, if Medicare pays, more power to you. You know what? You'll still get your indemnity benefit. If Medicare doesn't pay, it's a lifesaver. Now you don't have to worry about those bills that would have sacked you before. So remember, I spent a lot of time on this slide because of the fact it's really important for you to know that these policies have the potential. And that's why I push a lot of first day coverage on facility as well, because it's so easy to get claim dollars out of these policies compared to what we are used to with long-term care. So it can really be a premium justifier. And the reason I bring that up is if you had a 50-year-old couple, I could sell both the couple, 2 50-year-olds, a really strong plan with Omniflex, for example, for $1,600 a year. And again, that sounds like a lot, but think about 4 days at a $400 facility coverage. They go down the line and 8 years later have something happen to one of them and they need 4 days of therapy in a facility. Guess what? They're going to end up getting back a full year's worth of premium, and if you have 40 days, it'll pay 10 years worth of premium. So what I'm talking about is you wouldn't even be out of your elimination period with long-term care plan. And with this plan, you would be able to get those dollars in your pocket. So it's a great way. And if you spend the time with you as an agent to explain that to clients, you'll really get some strength out of that. Okay. And the biggest thing is down at the bottom, right? The biggest thing is these plans weren't designed just to cover you for those really small claims. These claims, or excuse me, these policies have some really robust abilities, right? We can sell $1 million policy potentially, or $500,000 for one claim. That's how powerful they can be if you build it up. But they also pay the short-term care claims. And that's why I say you can have your cake and eat it too, because with these policies, if you have one of these smaller claims, you're going to have the ability to restore the benefits and have those days spit right back into your plan. Once you recover and you're healthy for 180 days, the calendar starts and you kick it back in. Okay. So this, Jeff, is
yeah, I'll just say, one thing you said that kind of triggered a thought is, yes, I think in long-term care, we did have a tendency to always sell 90-day elimination period for facility. And we always did coach or advise our people to go ahead and do 0 for the home care because people don't want to wait anymore. But with Medicare, and it's not hard to convince people of this, we are aging as a society. We all know the baby boomers are coming in and crushing Medicare. So I've always told my clients, it's common sense, Medicare is doing less and less for us. And it's just because of sheer numbers. It's not like they don't like people. They're just running out of money. And there's a lot of people hitting that Medicare system. So it makes sense that they're not covering things like the hospital, observation versus inpatient, which can affect how they bill you. It goes under Part B, and then suddenly you're in rehab, you're not covered. So as Medicare pulls away, and I think that's believable, you do have the ability then to go to a 0-day. In the long-term care world, that was kind of expensive to go from a 90-day down to like a 20 or a 0. In these extended care plans, it's not that significant of an amount of premium. So it's kind of worth it to look at those 0 days more, because what Tommy's saying here, because it does help with these short-term, the knee replacements, the hip replacements. If you've been in long-term care as long as I had, and I've written some 700, I get claims and people will call me and say, I slipped on the ice, I broke my hip, I needed help for a month or two. And it's always been frustrating because I couldn't, with all these premiums they paid in, they're not able to get help in that short term. Sure, it'll take over in this, the 10th month or something on a long-term care claim and a stroke if they end up in a facility, or if they get really bad off. But all these things you're seeing on your screen now are very viable things that happen. I hear it from my clients all the time, these little ones here. So when you're able to cover both the short-term care stuff and the long-term care stuff, it's kind of why we love the extended care instead of calling it long-term care, because it kind of covers all those levels. So that came to mind of me, Tommy, and you're right. It's the cake and eat it too, because we should be doing more of the 0-day elimination periods, because that's just what's happening out there. It's where the market's going.
You bet. And one of the things you see with short-term care out there is that our Omniflex plan, and this is a subtle difference in some of the different plans. So talk to our team and make sure you're looking at the right short-term care plan, because only a couple of the policies out there offer multiple restorations on both the home care and the facility side. Omniflex, that was one of the big stickler points we wanted to make sure. And we wanted to make sure that it had multiple restorations. So you can see here with long-term care, this is just out of Milliman showing that restoration used to be built into some of the policies out there. And now, again, because of pricing, companies have had it as a rider, and you can see it's just not as popular in long-term care plans. And a lot of that, again, is because of pricing, right? They just got to the point where it's not going to happen as often. If you need 90-day certification with long-term care, you're not going to have it restored quite as often as you will with these short-term care plans. That's why we built it into Omniflex and said, yes, we need to restore multiple times, because people might use this plan 3 or 4 times or more in their lifetime. Okay. And this is where I'm going off, and this part that Jeff didn't get to see, but I'm really stressing restoration on this, and I may go through it quicker because I don't want to keep you guys here too long today. But I have a recorded training out there that talks really deeply about restoration and shows you an example, because I've had a lot of clients, or agents who have come over and said, give me an example of how that restoration actually works. And I'm going to go into a little bit of detail here, and I'm going to do the thing that I hate when trainers do, is they have the slides there and then they zip through it so fast that you're going, okay, I didn't catch half that. But I'm going to probably do that to you today, because I want to make sure that I do show you that you'll have the slides and be able to read it later. So I made these with a lot of writing on them. But look at the power of restoration. And for this example, I did it, there was a method, my madness. I used a 20-day elimination on facility because I wanted to show you how that worked in a plan. Even though Jeff or myself or any of our people on our team would probably tell you, don't use that 20-day, go down to 0-day. But in this example, I just wanted to show you because it affects how you get your claim paid, right? So in this example, Jeff, bear with me. I'm going to go through, and you folks at home, don't turn off your screens. I'm going to show you the power of restoration. And in this example, I'll show you the premiums for this thing later on. It's so affordable, and you'll see how powerful a short-term care plan can be for somebody, okay? So let's say Betty purchases plan, and she gets one of our most popular plans, by the way, $400 per day for a full year and $300 per day for a full year for the home care rider. first day on the home care, but again, in this example, I just used 20-day to show you the difference of how the claims work, because I wanted to have a specific example for agents who really dove in and wanted to understand it really clearly. So let's say that Betty buys this policy, and then 6-7 years later, whatever the case is, in this example, we're going to go 4th anniversary, because with Omniflex, if I did our full product training today, remember how we ramp up for the first 5 years to stop some of the adverse selection? So in this example, I'm really throwing you curveballs. I'm going to show you actually, because of the ramp up, how this claim will be paid and why it'll be paid the way it does. Does that make sense? So I sold a $400 per day and 300 home care. And that means you can see there I have 360 days available on facility and home care. And then they need care for this 4th anniversary for this bad fall or fracture. And she doesn't have to go to facility, but she needs 35 days of home health care, okay? So in this case, the daily benefit available is 360 days for the facility and 270 for home care. Why is it not what I sold her? Because remember, the Omniflex plan, if you go through our training, it ramps up. It starts at 50% of the benefit I sold, and it ramps up till that 5th anniversary. So in this case, it hasn't fully matured. So in this case, she needs 0 days facility, but she has 35 days of home care. It will pay for the full 35 days, right? If she hits the claim triggers, no problem there. And in this example, it pays $9,450. So for this example, she's already got $9,450. We just saw, again, with long-term care, she would have still been in her home health care elimination period potentially, because only 8.7% of the policies sold today have first day home care even. So a lot of times long-term care wouldn't have even stepped in this case, or because they didn't hit the 90-day trigger on the claim itself. So short-term care is coming out of the gates looking good with $9,400. And if Betty bought this, by the way, at age 55, that would have been 9 years worth of premium paid right there on that one claim. So that's how strong it is. So anyway, getting back to it, days remaining, 360 days. She's got 325 days remaining on her home care. So then the clock starts ticking, right? She's stopped getting claim dollars. Now she's out of the claim situation. Now that 180-day clock for our restoration starts clicking, okay? If Betty needs more care for that fall or fracture, or she has some other event during that 180 days that clock is ticking behind the scenes, then it would be considered part of that same benefit period. And she would have her 360 and her 325 left, okay? So her restoration wouldn't have kicked in is what I'm saying. But if she ends up having an example where she didn't have any claims or any problems for well over 180 days, then she could have it restore, okay? So let's say 2 years later, poor Betty has a stroke. She went through her 180 days and her policy restored. For time's sake, I am going to tell you, and this is why I printed this out so you can read it later if you can't follow everything I'm talking about today. But we beat Betty up pretty bad where she has a stroke right away 2 years later, okay? A lot of times they're not going to need this policy for several more years, and they'll have little things happen, maybe a hip replacement or something else. But for time's sake today, we're just saying, hey, we're going to hit her hard, and 2 years later, poor Betty has a stroke, okay? So if she had one of those smaller conditions, remember, if she has no 90-day requirement, she would have claims paid for those hip replacements and knee replacements and everything else, unlike with long-term care, okay? So just a clarifier there, but now she's had her previous days restore in her home health care. So now she's right back up to 360 days and 360 days. That's what restoration does. And she has a lot of extra days in her restoration pool available because it'll go up till it doubles. So again, she needs care. This time she had a stroke, so she needs 195 days of home health care and 42 days of facility care, okay? Now her policy is fully matured. We didn't put inflation on this plan, so it's up to the full $400 and $300. So she's sitting there with her full benefit available. And in this case, it pays 22 days for the facility. Why doesn't it pay for the full 42 days? You guys are a smart group. It's because I put the 20-day elimination on this plan, and I just wanted to show you how that would work. Again, if you use first day coverage across the board, it's a way better story for her. She would have been paid for those 20 days, those additional 20 days that she has on elimination too. But in this example, she would get paid for 22 days facility and of course the full 195 days for home care. So there's a nice $67,000 claim for Betty. Just in that example, so she's already had $76,000 paid out in this with benefits, and she has a lot of claim days left over, right? Here, Before the new restoration comes into effect, she's sitting at 338 days facility, and she's got 165 days of home health care left. And then it's the same deal. Behind the scenes at Manhattan Life, that clock starts ticking again, and the 180-day clock starts again. This is what we call multiple restoration, okay? Unfortunately, Betty didn't hit her 180 days this time, right? This is why I said this is an extreme example, Jeff. I want to really show people whether it's 15 days later or whether it's 180 days later. But in this case, poor Betty had a relapse, and she had some problems with that stroke once she was off claim. And all of a sudden, 15 days later, she needed some more help. So what happens? It's considered the same benefit period. So she's still at her 338 facility and 165 home health care, okay, because we didn't restore. Then she still has restoration days left. Don't worry about that. That's still there hanging out in case she needs it later and gets healthy. But for now, she has 338 and 165. She needs a major help at home, 141 more days at home. So what happens? She gets the 141 days at home because she has 165 available. She gets another $42,000. She still is sitting with 338 days of facility left and 24 days of home health care. So she's already received 119,000 in benefits and has plenty of days left, plus restoration days besides that, okay? So now the 180-day clock starts again. She's off claim, so the clock starts behind the scenes. And then after she rallies, she has another stroke. I told you I was picking on poor Betty. Now she had a restoration again because she had a stroke a couple of years later, another stroke, which is pretty common where people might have back-to-back strokes a year or two later. In this case, she recovered totally. She had another stroke. Her restoration kicked in. She's got 360 facility, 349 home care. Why does she only have 349 home care? Because she's already doubled her home care now, so she's at the 349 max. So she's up to 349 days. And again, all the math is done behind the scenes at the home office, so you don't have to worry about that. In this case, it's a tough stroke. She ends up with a major deal where she needs 9 months and spends her last 311 days in a facility. And Betty ends up getting a nice little claim out of the deal of 199,000, but unfortunately, she passes away, okay? So if you look at Betty, we really beat her up. And again, I apologize to poor Betty's out there, but she received a really nice total claim here for $318,850 total. And she could have had one claim for the maximum $252,000. If she would have had that stroke first and lingered for a while, that policy would have paid out in this example $352,000 or $252,000. And if she had the full stroke and then restored the full potential amount of the policy, she could have had $504,000. But again, most people aren't going to do a full absolute restore. So in this example, you can still see the power of the plan, $318,000 claims over the life of that policy. So I spent a little bit of time there, but again, look at the bang for the buck. Talk about leverage dollars. If I sold Betty this plan like I talked about at age 55, that's $91 a month for that plan. So that first claim alone would have paid, like I talked about, that first claim alone would have paid for 9 years worth of that premium, because that's about $1,050 premium. So you can see the power of these policies and the leverage amount with that they have. If you sold it to a 65-year-old, it's going to be about double in price, $201. Again, when you're getting a 318,000 claim out of it, it's a no-brainer if you had a crystal ball and knew what was going to happen. So very, very powerful plans, very affordable. And again, Jeff, I knew that if I showed you this ahead of time, you'd be like, this is way too deep. This is second level.
There's a lot there, but you're right. Yeah, you're going to hand this out so people can go through it. I think it's an important thing to look at. But just look at those premiums. That's what strikes me in this slide is, look, I mean, if I wanted to buy that much benefit in a long-term care chassis, that premium is going to be north of $400 a month for a 65-year-old. So you've got a claim scenario here where this is paid out some $300,000 payout for a premium for a 65-year-old, I guess, for 55, only 91. That same type of coverage on a long-term care is at least $400 a month. So, you know, without restoration. So, you know, it just, again, it speaks to the power of some of these short-term care plans. And if you're like me, I was a long-term care traditionalist. It's taken me a while to understand the power of these plans. The fact that you can get your cake and eat it too, but there's so much, they pack quite a benefit in there. Well, there's your next slide. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they really amazing to me. You have both. Go ahead, Tommy. Yeah, I love this slide.
No, I wasn't trying to cut you off there. I was hoping to keep rolling because Jeff is
Yep.
one of those guys who was long-term care. He's buttered his bread there for so many years, like most of us here at long-term at Golden Care, excuse me. But long-term care, it's really hard to get some of those traditional long-term care agents to turn their heads. Short-term care, the worst thing about it, we joke about a lot, is the name, because a lot of agents think about it. If you ask every 18-year-old in the country, what does short-term care do? A lot of them think, oh, it pays for 30 days, 15 days out of a hospital. They don't realize the power of these plans. You can sell smaller plans, they're super flexible, and you can sell plans that are so inexpensive, it's not even funny. But even if you looked at that last example, the premiums aren't even out of line for selling. Look at this top one here, $12,000 a month, $400 per day facility. If we didn't sell inflation protection, $144,000 for one claim. Home health care, same claim, could have home health care and you could have facility, and you could have a $252,000 payout for one claim, like we talked about. Full restoration would make it that $500,000 policy. That's $9,000 a month at home. That's a big, strong policy even without inflation. You throw inflation on there, now that thing, the way Omniflex works, remember simple inflation, and after the 20 years that it builds up at starting in the 5th year, once that matures, that's $24,000 a month for facility and $18,000 per month for home care. And remember, you can combine those 2 years on one claim if it happens that way, and you can get a $500,000 for one claim. And there's that $1 million policy mark. So you don't have to sell the most robust plan to everybody. We talk a lot about that, make sure it's affordable. But if you do, we just showed the example. It's not that expensive to sell that plan without inflation, especially. It's a really strong plan for a small amount. And the reason I bring this slide in here, Jeff, is to bring it around full circle.
It's an important one. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, most agents look at long-term care and they think that they're out there selling, everybody's got to have these unlimited plans that we used to sell. Well, guess what? The market's changed. Right now out there, they're used to sell a lot of unlimited plans with 5% compounding, but nowadays, people are out there realizing that long-term care is so important. People, you'll see in a second how many bankruptcies out there are caused by these type of claims. Most people don't plan ahead, but long-term care, when you look at all participants, as an average, it's $61,448 for a claim for long-term care. That's with that 90-day certification or requirement at claim time. So these people are pretty sick, and even those claims on average are $61,448. So you can see there's a little broad spectrum there, but all I'm trying to tell you is you don't have to sell even the most robust short-term care plans, because these claims on average won't be quite as big. And you can get by much cheaper in a lot of cases, like Jeff said, with these claims. So you can go to our AHIP site out there. It's not our site, obviously, but AHIP does a good job where any given state, if you're curious, you can go in there and see what the total claims paid and how many claims have been out there for long-term care with those tougher triggers. So people are sicker, and you can see any state you go to, it's $80,000 to $110,000 on average. So you can see there are some of those catastrophic ones with long-term care, but most of the times, most claims are very reasonable and very affordable. So that's one of the reasons that we talk about the fact that short-term care really should be at the table. Lynn did such a good job putting this graphic together. It's in almost all my webinars, so you've probably seen it before, but it's really true. And again, like Jeff said, so many agents are out there saying, I'm a long-term care guy, I don't want to talk about short-term care. But now they're starting to see these new plans, especially look at that Omniflex plan I showed you. Look at the power of that Manhattan Life plan. The other short-term care plans are out there with just as much power too. So they're all great plans, and they do belong at the big boys table, if you will. Okay.
Oh, I guess for me, Tommy, I don't know. I guess I sold my first short-term care plans about 5 years ago. The GTL Recovery Cash, and then of course Aetna's Recovery Care, have been out for some time. Kind of the first two leaders out there. Good products, and we marketed the heck out of them. Sold them. I sold probably, I don't know, 5 of them a year, going back 5 years ago, 6 years. But it was typically, when I had a declined long-term care, I would piecework together a short-term care with a home care. And then really, with putting together Omniflex, and we were fortunate to have Manhattan Life let us put this plan together for them. And Tommy was very instrumental in that, did a great job with this. But because we put together this Omniflex, we were able to go to a carrier and kind of put in even more power that we had. And I guess maybe getting under the hood more and looking at it, it was such an eye opener to a traditional long-term care guy like myself that, there's a lot of power in here. That previous slide you had where it shows the average claims are only 80 grand. So do we really need to be selling $500,000 pots of money anymore in long-term care? Matter of fact, we don't. In GoldenCare's block, I mean, 2 out of 3 policies that we sell are pots of money of less than $150,000 now. So if I'm going to sell a $150,000 long-term care plan, I can sell them a $150,000 short-term care plan for half the price, and no 90-day certification period required, all cash benefit. It makes me start to wonder a lot of times that a lot of my folks have been a lot better served in a short-term care version. But again, I just didn't have the knowledge, and really the products weren't around. So, 15 years ago, it wasn't the case. But it's important to understand the extended care, long-term care is kind of all the products now. And the short-term care thing is so strong, largely because of Omniflex. And I hope there's more plans like it coming.
You bet. You bet. We're seeing a lot of agents go leaning into that direction as well. So again, this slide is just for future reference. We already talked a little bit about it. We use extended care a lot because some people, if you start talking about long-term care even, it gets a negative connotation, and short-term care, people misrepresent that and think that it only covers a couple days. I always put this slide in there for you to reference it later. To remember to close every sale by reminding people that they bought a short-term care policy. If you close the sale, make sure you take the time, because we have seen from some of our carriers saying people who drop these plans or don't take them, most of the time are because they got surprised by seeing the word short-term care. And they don't remember the benefits. They just see short-term care and they panic like, oh, no, I thought I bought a really strong plan. I don't want this. So remember, just tell people, make them feel comfortable that, remember, I sold you the same nice plan that I showed you, and they will call it short-term care because long-term care was taken. So these are called short-term care plans.
Yeah, it's too bad, because that short-term care does, it just, the perception of it does give the wrong idea. And I'm guilty of it. I'm a guy that knows it inside out and backwards, but I just looked away because of that short-term care labeling that we have on it. So it's just time for all of us to kind of get that out of our brains somehow and talk about extended care.
Exactly, because the reason we need to is right here, you guys. People are afraid, and this is one of the biggest things we talk about is you don't use fear tactics. You just tell people there's a good chance you're going to need care. Every study out there shows it. Every study shows that if you do look at it, you'd be a little bit worried about having a $90,000 bill or even a $50,000 bill. 3 out of 5 personal bankruptcies are due to medical expenses that we're not prepared for, and 70% plus of those people had regular medical insurance, so it's not like they're out there with no insurance. So the bankruptcies aren't $100,000 bankruptcies. They're literally, the average nationwide is $18,000. So these, most Americans, if you look across the table and you're serious, some of you on this call, if you're serious with yourself, saying, hey, can I write a check for 25 grand tomorrow if I needed to, if something happened? It's not that easy. Most people aren't that liquid. So you have to realize these plans can be very affordable, and you can write the check now for a little bit, 50 bucks a month, or you can figure out later what you're going to do if the worst case scenario happens. So again, that's the reason we're here. So use the power of our entire GoldenCare portfolio during Long-Term Care Awareness Month and realize the fact that we're going to stretch our wings a little bit, and we're going to need some other alternatives out there for your clients. And we have all the tools you need. We have Stratecision, which is, I think nowadays up to, I never know the exact number. It might be 500 bucks a year for a license for this. That's free for our agents to go in. You can compare long-term care plans or short-term care plans, by the way. And our InstaPivot tool, if you want to learn how to go through and what health conditions, if I would be able to keep you guys for a couple hours today, I'd jump on InstaPivot and show you all the different examples of different niche areas that companies in the short-term care arena cover. And it's pretty surprising for most agents out there. So what I want to show you today, and again, just spend 1 minute on it, I won't go deep into it, I promise, is I got to figure out which one. Both the screens look the same here. There we go. So in this one, just to show you, we have our pivot presentation. Because it's Long-Term Care Awareness Month, again, I want to stress, we're not trying to get you not to sell long-term care. What we're trying to do is give a presentation, for example, ask our team about our pivot presentation. And we've got one version that's geared towards short-term care only, and we have one that has long-term care as our ultimate issue to try to get us to a long-term care sale. And this one is a nice little presentation that says, hey, the key is don't waste your time. Go out there, tell people right off the bat. We know it's a necessity to look into covering yourself for extended care, but we want to find out which policy is going to fit you best, because most of the time you buy these more with your health than you do with your checkbook. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you a couple health questions and find out what policy in this realm of possibilities, and this is just some of our plans we offer, that you can pivot to and jump right over to these different websites, et cetera, and different information about these plans. All we want you to know is that we have tools to help you be successful. There's our InstaPivot tool, an instant link. You can go over to our resources page that has more stuff than you'd ever want on there. Everything you need to know about short-term care and extended care and long-term care, and you can jump back at any time. So this is, again, I'm just showing you a vast quick move, but basically all we talk to people is about find out what you qualify for first, and that's all this presentation does. And it says, remember, relax, we have a product for you. As long as you're not in assisted living or you need help right now with activities of daily living, we have a plan that can help you. Okay, and then you go through and say, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you a little bit of health questions. And then what our goal is to get them through to maybe a long-term care sale. If they don't have any problems, you can see that they can easily get through. And this is trying to simplify it really quickly. And again, you can jump over to the resources page or the InstaPivot if you need to. But the nice thing about this, if somebody has a red flag that you know, they're not going to be able to get something because they have something on here like diabetes with 50 units of insulin. Guess what? Then you just click down here. And again, I'm not training you on InstaPivot today. I'm just showing you on our pivot presentation. That's what these little blocks are. So you can subtly say if somebody says, well, I do have diabetes and I am on over 50 units, then you can click over and say, you know what? We've got some really good opportunities for you on short-term care that we're going to talk to you next, okay? Or you could jump over and go right to home care. All these different things are out there. We have critical cash even in there, or home care. And you can jump over immediately to see where we're at and start that presentation. For example, if I went to short-term care, I'd be able to start talking about some of these short-term care stats to show the need. And then I can go in right from here and show people how to go in and close the sale on a short-term care plan. So that's the power of that pivot presentation. Again, I'm not training you on it today. I just wanted to remind you that it's there because of the fact that so many people out there can have some great opportunities to help more people if you want to pivot easily during the presentation. Okay, so again, I'll finish up here. GoldenCare has an exciting line of guest speakers coming up. These slides are just to remind you again before I let you go that we have NGL coming up November 12th. Mark your calendars. We've got November 14th with Mutual again, and we've got Thrive It. And then remember to look at your emails on Thursdays for those extra boxes. So last thing I'll say before I turn it back over and maybe see if Jeff has any closing thoughts is I'm going to just send you out here really quickly, if I can find it. Come on, Tommy. There we go. Extended care strategies. Remember, check that out. That's a way to find out not only to get our InstaPivot and our StrataDecision. That's a one-time sign up to get that, but you can get it free if you're with our GoldenCare or any of our integrity partners. Full sales and marketing area over there. And again, a lot of our products are on here with extra information as well. So I'm just showing you that again to remind you that we have everything you need to have a successful Long-Term Care Awareness Month. We just want to make sure that you know that we're here to help you. And more importantly than all those websites and all those tools put together is guys like Jeff Park. I've got a great team here. We've got a great marketing support team. We've got a great group of professionals who have been here for a long time and can really help you through the sale. So Jeff, any closing thoughts as we let people roll?
I really don't, Tommy. It was well done. You covered everything. And just the main thing is, lean on us too here. I know there's quite a few of you on here. If you're newer to it, lean on us. We'll help you go through different products and help you design plans. So give us a call at the marketing office here. If you have some cases, clients you want to get, you want to quote, maybe look at some of the different plans that we offer. We're happy to help. So it is Awareness Month. So if you're not doing much of it, if you're newer to it and you want to start doing more of it, give us a call. We'll bounce some cases up us. We'll give you the tools and the know-how to go there and be successful. So I don't have much else, Tommy. Good job today.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff. And thanks all of you for spending your valuable time to jump on and let us yap at you for a little bit. Remember, again, our phone number's on the screen there, 800-842-7799. And all you have to do, wherever you're from, or whatever agent you're with, just let us know. And if you're with an agency, let us know so we can make sure we get you slotted in the right place and help you in the right way. And again, our website is always there at goldencareagent.com. Everything you need to be successful, that's our goal. We want you to go out. We need it. We have a lot of gray hair in America, and if you're not out helping people, a lot of times it's not some other agent helping them, unfortunately. A lot of times it's just plain old people aren't getting helped, and that's the reason we need you, and you're so important. So thank you for all you do. Thanks a lot of you for the production you're giving us. I haven't seen the names on this yet, but tell you what, I know there's a lot of great hitters out there. Thank you so much for the time you're spending to help American citizens, because that's helping us as well, and we appreciate it. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
GoldenCare is always here to serve you with new tools, new products, new ideas, and new innovations, and always the best support in the business to help you succeed. So give us a call at 800-842-7799 and check out our website at www.goldencareagent.com.